Hi, welcome to Internet Mysteries with Mio. Today we are looking at 11B-X-1371, better known as the Plague Doctor video. It is a 2-minute black and white clip that arrived on a disc, moved through Reddit, and became one of the strangest collaborative investigations of the 2010s. What makes this case interesting is not only the video itself, it is the way the mystery changed shape every time people found a new layer. First, it looked like a creepy clip. Then it looked like a puzzle. Then it looked like a threat. Later, it looked more like an art project wearing the skin of all three. So we are going to build it in the order people experienced it. The package, the first viewing, the Reddit investigation, the hidden audio, the political readings, the real-world location, the creator claim, and finally the sequel. The public story begins on October 12, 2015. GadgetZZ, a Swedish technology blog run by Jan-Erik Johnny Krabichler, published a post with a title that sounded almost casual. "This creepy puzzle arrived in our mail." The post explained that GadgetZZ had received a physical letter from Poland. Inside was a disc. At first, the writing on the disc looked like a product key, the kind of serial number you might expect to see on software, a game, or some review copy sent to a tech site. But when the disc was opened, there was no ordinary software. There was a video. The envelope had Polish stamps and no obvious explanation. It was addressed to Johnny through the GadgetZZ post office box in Sweden. The package did not announce itself as horror. It did not say it was an RAGE. It did not invite anyone to play. That was part of what made it effective. It was physical, it was unexplained, and it had been sent to a small technology blog, not a movie studio, a news network, or a government office. On the disc was a string that would become the name of the mystery: 11B-X-1371. Before we go deep into the analysis, we should watch the video the way most people first encountered it, as one uninterrupted object. Small sound warning. The original audio is harsh, noisy, and deliberately uncomfortable, so be ready for the volume before it starts. Now that you have seen the full video, let's slow it down. It opens inside a ruined building. Through the windows, trees move in the wind. The frame is monochrome, grainy, and unstable. A figure stands in shadow, dressed in black. Then the camera begins to reveal the costume: a hood, dark clothing, and a long-beaked plague doctor mask. The eyes are covered. The body language is slow, deliberate, and stiff. The figure raises one hand toward the camera. In the center of the palm, a small light flashes. The flashes do not feel random, they feel like a signal. There are other details too. Symbols appear and disappear. The figure points. The camera jumps. At one moment, the figure turns away from the viewer. At another, it locks back onto the lens. If you watch it once, it is unsettling. If you watch it twice, you begin to notice that the unsettling part is not just the mask, it is how many things seem placed there on purpose. The video is not simply asking, "Are you scared?" It is asking, "Are you paying attention?" The next day, Reddit turned the mystery into a group project. On October 13, 2015, a user posted the GadgetZZ article to r/creepy. The thread exploded. The archived capture we saved shows the post with roughly 1,500 points and more than 9,000 comments. That mattered because this was exactly the kind of object Reddit could attack collectively. One person checked the writing on the disk, another separated the audio. Others looked for hidden frames, searched Polish urban exploration photos, or tried simple code breaking by hand. Within the thread, users started organizing findings. An IRC channel was set up so people could coordinate in real time. The investigation stopped being just a comment section and became a distributed puzzle lab. The first discoveries were simple compared with what came later. The string written on the disk was connected to the title 11B-X-1371. People found references to base 64, binary, Morse code, pigpen cipher, wingdings, chess notation, and hidden frames. But then someone ran the audio through a spectrogram. That changed the entire investigation. Then came the discovery that changed the tone of the case. The audio could be seen. A spectrogram turns sound into an image. Frequencies become shapes. In ordinary audio, you might see bands, noise, and patterns, but artists and puzzle makers can hide images in audio on purpose. If you know to look, sound can become a canvas. In 11B-X-1371, the audio was not just noise, it was carrying pictures. One of the clearest hidden messages read, "You are already dead." There were also skull-like images, blocks of binary, and other symbols that looked designed to be found by people using audio analysis tools. Not all of the hidden images were symbolic. Some were graphic, some appeared to be pulled from horror films, art references, stock imagery, and at least one real crime scene photograph. We will not show the uncensored versions in this video. We will use the censored spectrogram and safe detail crops only. This discovery is important for two reasons. First, it proved that the video was not a simple creepy clip. It had layers. Someone had built it to survive forensic attention. Second, it shifted the tone. A plague doctor costume is theatrical. A blinking light is strange. But hidden violent imagery in the audio made people wonder whether this was still just a puzzle. Was it a threat? Was it a confession? Or was it a creator deliberately weaponizing ambiguity? Once the audio layer was open, the code started pulling the investigation into politics. The flashing light in the hand was treated as Morse code. One decoded phrase was reported as "red lips life 10th. By itself, that phrase sounded meaningless. But some investigators noticed that with interpretation, it could be rearranged into a much darker phrase, "kill the president." That interpretation was controversial. It depended partly on how one ambiguous character was read. But the timing was enough to make people look harder. Then came coordinates. A string of hexadecimal numbers decoded to 38.897709, minus 77.036543, the area of the White House in Washington, D.C. Suddenly, the puzzle had moved from creepy internet artifact to possible political threat. Other decoded lines added to that feeling. References to an eagle, a disease, a virus, and an antivirus. One line was interpreted as, "strike an arrow through the heart of the eagle." This is where it is important to be careful. The video did contain threatening language and political imagery. The White House coordinates were real, the anagram interpretation was widely discussed, but none of that proves there was a real-world plot. In fact, even Johnny at GadgetZZ was skeptical. His argument was simple. If someone wanted to make a serious threat against the United States government, why mail the clue to a small technology blog in Sweden? That question never fully went away. But the strongest real-world clue was not a code at all, it was the room. Investigators matched the room in the video to Zofiowka Sanatorium in Otak, Poland, near Warsaw. The comparison was made through the window shapes, brickwork, graffiti, and urban exploration photos of the abandoned site. The location was not just a random ruin. Zofiowka began as a Jewish mental health facility in the early 20th century. It opened in 1908 after land was purchased with the help of a donation from philanthropist Sophia Endelman. By the 1930s, the complex had expanded significantly. Then came the German occupation of Poland. During the Holocaust, Zofiowka fell inside the medical zone of the Autek ghetto. Conditions deteriorated, patients suffered starvation, and on August 19, 1942, many patients and staff were gathered by German-supervised forces. Some were shot on sight. Others were deported to Treblinka with thousands of Jews from Autek. After World War II, the facility returned to medical use. Later, it treated children and young people with neuropsychiatric disorders connected to drug addiction. It finally closed in the mid-1990s, and that history matters. It means the video was not only using a spooky abandoned building as set dressing. It was filmed in a place already carrying grief, medicine, institutional history, and violence. Whether the creator understood that fully or not, the location gave the video a weight that a normal basement or film school hallway would not have had. At this point, the mystery started producing theories faster than answers. One theory was that the video came from a serial killer. That idea became less convincing as people traced some hidden images back to known sources, horror movies, art references, and other material already online. Another theory was viral marketing. The Plague Doctor theme reminded people of Dan Brown's Inferno, which had a film adaptation coming. It also reminded people of television and game campaigns that used puzzles to build attention. Some thought it was an alternate reality game. That explanation fit the ciphers and the community-solving structure, but there was no clean entry point, no brand reveal, and no official game master. Some thought it was a political threat. That explanation fit the White House coordinates and some of the more aggressive decoded language, but it did not fit the delivery method very well, and no real attack followed. There were also side theories: music promotion, secret societies, anonymous copycats, hacked websites, and random re-uploaders trying to attach themselves to the mystery. The more people decoded, the less the video seemed to converge on one meaning. Eventually, the central question shifted. At first, people wanted to know what all the codes meant, but after enough fragments had been decoded, a simpler question started to matter more. Who made this? Was it the uploader? Was it GadgetZZ? Was it someone on 4chan? Was it a film student? Was it a person using the name Warner Wright? For a while, every possible answer felt shaky, and even when a creator started to emerge, the answer did not make the whole thing simple. The name Warner Wright had been floating around from early in the investigation because a YouTube channel using that name had uploaded the video. At first, that lead was muddy. There were denials, other uploaders, and copycats. Then a new online presence appeared using the name Warner Wright. This person spoke as if he was the creator. He answered questions, he posted material that seemed connected to the production, images of the mask, claims about the blinking light system, geometric puzzle files, and references to the same batch of discs. One important detail was the mask. Investigators had tried to identify it as something bought from an online seller, but the match was never exact. Wright claimed the mask was handmade. That explained why the search for a store-bought duplicate kept failing. GadgetZZ became increasingly convinced that Wright was connected. Daily Dot later interviewed him, and in that interview he gave a clearer account of the video's origin. According to Wright, he seeded 3 copies of 11B-X-1371 on May 9, 2015. 2 were physical discs in Poland. 1 left on the metro, 1 in a park. The 3rd was posted as a file on 4chan. This is important because it reframes the GadgetZZ package. The viral public story started in October, but the video may have been circulating months earlier in a much smaller way. Wright also described the project as art, but he did not fully explain the meaning. In fact, one of the most frustrating things about the reveal was that it answered the who question while preserving the why. The person behind the mask had stepped forward, but he had not really taken the mask off. Even with a creator claim, the threat question did not disappear. Daily Dot asked Wright about the most obvious problem. Did the political content attract government attention? Wright claimed that it had, but framed it as protected artistic speech. He suggested that authorities were aware of it but not worried. That answer is not a legal ruling, it is his account, but it matches the public outcome. The video scared people, generated media coverage, and inspired investigations, but it did not lead to a known real-world attack. So was it a threat? The safest answer is, it was designed to feel like one. It used the grammar of a threat. Coordinates, diseases, presidents, death language, hidden violent imagery, and a faceless figure in a place with a painful history. But it also used the grammar of art and games. Ciphers, spectrograms, theatrical costume, and layered ambiguity. That is why it stayed in the uncomfortable middle. It felt too deliberate to dismiss, but too theatrical to treat as a straightforward criminal warning. Instead, it stayed in between. And then, just when the first mystery seemed to be settling, Parker announced a second video. On December 31, 2015, Parker Warner Wright said a new release was coming. On January 1, 2016, it appeared. The title was 11B-X-1371. Before we talk about what the sequel added, let's watch it in full. Same warning as before. The audio is harsh and intentionally uncomfortable, so keep the volume in mind. After watching the sequel, the biggest difference is how much wider the project becomes. The sequel looked familiar, black and white footage, the same plague doctor figure, more hidden signals, more cryptic references, but it also changed the formula. There was a new figure in the video, and the surrounding puzzle expanded into real-world coordinates and hidden USB drives. For many people, the sequel was the proof they had been waiting for. It showed that Wright was not just someone trying to attach himself to the viral moment. He could produce another video in the same style, with the same character, and with new layers of encoded material. But the sequel did not close the case. It widened it. Coordinates appeared. People speculated that hard copies or cryptographic keys had been hidden at real locations. GadgetZZ reported that USB drives were found around Warsaw, and that some clues may have been connected to Zofiowka again. This is where the series starts to resemble a full alternate reality project. It is not just a video anymore. It is posts, drives, locations, screenshots, messages, and people physically going to places because of coordinates. But it also became harder to follow. The first video had a clean hook. A creepy disc arrives in the mail. The sequel had more material, more references, and more moving parts. For dedicated investigators, that made it deeper. For casual viewers, it made it less iconic. That is why 11B-X-1371 remains the famous one. The first video had the perfect balance of simplicity and complexity. You could describe it in one sentence, but you could spend months taking it apart. The sequel also made the project feel more self-aware. The hidden messages included lines like, "You die when there is no one watching," and "Do not educate yourself to the point of blindness." One decoded Latin phrase was translated as, "The perfect study never dies." That line is probably the cleanest way to understand the sequel. It was not just another scare, it was a comment on the investigation itself. By this point, the audience was part of the mechanism. People were pausing frames, extracting audio, comparing locations, decoding text, sharing screenshots, and building theories in public. The project was no longer only the video Parker made, it was also the behavior the video produced. That is why the first video remains stronger. The sequel is bigger, but the original is sharper. A strange disc arrives in the mail. A masked figure stands in a ruined room. The audio screams. Then the file starts giving up secrets. You can explain that hook in one sentence, but once you touch it, it keeps opening. So, the responsible ending is simple. We know the video was constructed. We know the public investigation began with the GadgetZZ package in October 2015. We know the room was matched to Zofiowka Sanatorium in Otak, Poland. We know many of the codes, images, and audio layers were decoded by the community, and we know Warner Wright later claimed the project and produced related material. What we do not have is one clean final meaning. That does not make the mystery fake, it makes it designed. Maybe that was the real experiment. Not one answer hidden at the center, but a machine that turned attention into fear, fear into collaboration, and collaboration into more questions. I hope you enjoyed this dive into one of the internet's strangest video puzzles. We will keep investigating stories like this, piece by piece. Until next time,